This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool. It helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Molby On The Spot, your weekly chance, thanks to Anfield Index Pro, to hear the wit and wisdom of your friend and mine, Mr. Jan Molby. We've got another one in the books for you here, so let's say it once more. Good evening, Jan.
Yes, let's go, Trevor. Good evening. I hope you're well.
I am, my friend. I have so many things I want to talk to you about on this show. Who'd have thought an international break would bring up so many stories? There's a lot of stuff rumbling on the background that I wouldn't mind getting your take on with other clubs. We might do a kind of a rivals section, seeing as we've only really one match to look forward to, big one and all as it is. And we could talk perhaps then about the next chunk of Liverpool fixtures too. But I do want to talk to you about what you make of what's going on with the Everton story, between the points deduction, the new owners. Very curious to see what you make as well of the upcoming transfer market, which we can't avoid because it's going to be front and centre in everyone's mind now. And you know as well as I do, Jan, that if the result doesn't go swimmingly against City, it'll be the thing that kicks off all the debates will be, who do we need? Because people always think you need to get someone in to fix it. And I've been guilty of that myself, as I think all fans have. So there's some of the places we're going to go. But before we do, I know you're aware that we on Anfield Index are running a sort of series of shows with my podcast pal Dave Davis. He's doing it. And he's got the lead singer from the Ragamuffins involved as well. The whole series is about people's favourite Liverpool songs, the songs they hear in the ground on match day. What are the ones that really mean a lot to them? And the interactions have been ridiculous. We got tremendous response to your tweet, beyond what anyone was thinking it would be. Now, unfortunately, the people responded to your tweet, but they didn't vote in the freaking poll. They didn't go back to the original tweet and vote in the poll. So the boys are kind of hand counting the various responses and trying to get what they can out of it. Look, I'll get the ball rolling here, and everyone knows I'm as old as dirt in terms of fandom, you know, and in terms of podcast involvements, the type of people sitting in this chair. You know, I'm getting to granddad status in this game at the moment. So I've been around a while, I guess, is what I'm getting to. So I've heard a lot of brilliant songs over the years, and I'm struggling to think, Jan, of one that I've enjoyed more. It's kind of recent in my memory as well because I was over for the last game of last season, but I'm struggling to think of one I enjoyed more and just got involved with more, and it made me smile more than the Bobby Firmino song, which has been a huge one in recent years. It's got a brilliant tune, it's original lyrics, it's easy to remember, everyone can sing the chorus. It just felt like a real uplifting thing. And of course, you associate it, don't you, with wins and with Liverpool being brilliant, which we must get back to. This team of ours, we might have had a ropier season or so for ourselves, but good God, we're really in contention. So I look forward to talking about that. If you were put on the spot and you had to pick one out, what would be, even one or two, if you don't have to stick to one, what would be the ones that you recall with most affection or that you enjoy now in your capacity of being in the stadium and working in punditry?
Well, I think the one you mentioned there, you got to go a long way to beat the Bobby Firmino song. And also, like you said, I'm in the ground. I travel quite a bit with Liverpool fans and whatever, isn't it? And that is the one song that everybody feels joyous about, isn't it? You know, when the moment that everybody, you know, even you could be on a train with Liverpool fans and, you know, some of them sing songs all the way home or all the way there, isn't it? But the Bobby Firmino song, everybody joins in. You know,
they do.
Everybody just feels that. I mean, I have a big charity Christmas lunch, and we almost, for whatever reason, sing it every year. It's just, you know, you just go, you're doing an auction, and the auction is a bit of a kick off the backside, and you go on, let's get the Bobby Firmino song going, and then everybody's just left, and the next thing somebody pays you £2,000, somebody pays you £1,000 for it. So it's just so it's always worked well, isn't it? But I think the first Liverpool song I was introduced to was Scouser Tommy.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated about Scouser Tommy because, well, obviously, because it was a little bit of a challenge at the time to learn a song in English. So I understood all the words. You know, I was listening to what the song was about, isn't it? And I was fascinated about a song like that. And it was in the 80s, you know, it was the sort of go-to song in the 80s. So I've always had an affiliation with Scouser Tommy, maybe because I'm foreign and the Scouser Tommy thing, and the way that I was taught by Sammy Lee. You know what I mean? Sammy goes, "You got to learn the songs, son." You know what I mean? So we did the songs together, and I was always fascinated about that. And I've always known a lot about the World War because of that song. The war, you know, the war with the cop and everything else, isn't it? So. Yeah, that is another song, isn't it? That brings a smile, but also a certain amount of what we're about, really, isn't it? You know, as a football club, isn't it? You know, because yes, the football is important, isn't it? But in that song, we got through a lot of subjects, isn't it? That really matters to the people that watch our football team play. So I think that's an excellent song.
It's a great shout. It's actually a great shout. And Jim Boardman's interviewed you when I've been away before, so you'll know Jim and Jay have a show on the channel called Scouser Tommies, and it's not a coincidence that they picked that one. It's very much the local favourite, I think, as well. So yeah, it's a great shout. Well, look, if you are interested in that, you can have a listen to what we're doing with the channel, folks. And you know, if there's any more polls or anything like that, do get involved. I just wanted to get the main take from the main man before we went any further. Like I said, Jan, there's a million things we can talk about. We'll start with the fact that the international break is now winding down, and that we have, it seems, most people returning comparatively intact. That in and of itself is a pretty good thing, and it's been different in the past. The reason I say that that's an important thing is because we're going to need everyone for this challenge that we're facing. In terms of just the international matches themselves, was there anything that you took note of? I, for one, found it hard to look away from the fact that Darwin Núñez was doing a lot of Darwin Núñez things, and that's encouraging. Anything else you noted from the bits and pieces you saw of the international football?
You know, I think our Hungarian superstar, Dominic Szoboszlai, scored a marvellous goal. I was just sitting there. Obviously read that he scored, and you're just sitting there waiting for the goal, and you think, oh, wait, okay, it was worth waiting for, you know, because the first was a really nice goal, isn't it? Beyond that.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
Denmark topping their group and qualifying for the Euros, Trev, and then getting beat 2-0 by Northern Ireland. And the Republic of Ireland, I don't know what to say, Trevor.
Don't bother. Don't bother.
But the light at the end of the tunnel, I think, isn't it? Because there's every chance you're now going to change managers. I'm not necessarily a big fan of changing the manager, but I don't think the boy has done particularly well, has he? So I think the time has come, isn't it? I was in Dublin the other weekend and talking to a lot of them, and very unusual, as much as they all love their Manchester United and them Liverpools and whatever. There's always been an enormous support for the national team, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's sad to see it's no longer there, Trevor. Is they need to kick up the backside. They need a Jack Charlton to walk back through those doors, isn't it? And then get something going again.
100%. It is demoralising because, no prouder Irishman than the lad facing you in the camera here. And it's taken quite something for me to step away. I mean, I can't explain this to people except to say, here's how it works. I live next door to my parents, as you know. We built next door. And so, I'm in there a lot for various reasons, again, as you know, various reasons to do with how they're getting on and stuff. But for years, the tradition was if Ireland were playing, it was myself, my dad and my brother, regardless of what else was going on. We're sitting there, we're watching Ireland, and we were jumping up and down like lunatics. Even the old man up out of the chair like a lunatic. Totally involved, incredibly passionate about the national team. It takes a lot, doesn't it, man, to see that drift away, to feel as if you've gotten so detached and so disillusioned that you don't even do that family tradition anymore. We just stopped doing it. It was heartbreaking. It was just demoralizing. I hope you don't have a spell like that with Denmark, because it is hard to take, and when you're a smaller nation as well with a smaller population, it's not like you can just keep going to the well and changing up the pool of players and changing up the pool of ex-players of standing and status who are actually in the managerial game. We don't have many of those. And the most notable one of recent years in terms of high-profile player, Roy Keane, well, that's not exactly worked out for anybody, has it, when it comes to his managerial career with Ireland, even the stint he had with Martin O'Neill. So yeah, it's a problem. I think you're right. I think it's going to take an outside influence. We'll see. We'll watch this space. Meanwhile, I can go and get behind your lot in the tournament, and why not? I want to ask you about, again, in terms of the couple of weeks that we've had off, there's been a lot of stories breaking. We might as well get through some of these here. And I don't know how closely you've been following it, but obviously the situation at Everton was pretty fractious one in terms of the problematic ownership situation. There was a lot of trouble. There was a lot of it was very unsettled. I think, when he arrived, it was supposed to be the second coming. That didn't work out. There was supposed to be new ground. That didn't work out. But now we hear rumours of this 777 group, and we hear rumours of, I think they're more than rumours, yeah. I think it's looking likely to happen. But Everton have had that points deduction. It's remarkable to see them lose that many points and be in a position after this next round of fixtures where I think they could go up out of the bottom three if things go their way. So I don't think it's going to impact their season in terms of relegating them. I honestly don't. I think, if anything, it might have a galvanising effect. But I'd like to get your take on the points deduction, the reasons behind it, whether you're happy with that. We might talk then about a few other things in relation to Newcastle and other bits and bobs. But just for now, just on Everton, the points deduction, the new ownership, would you be optimistic for them? The new ground, all those chats. What are you hearing in the city?
Well, obviously it's very raw for people, isn't it? So a lot of people, I think, are generally shocked because this is like a world first, isn't it? It's the first time. And I think the Premier League, in many ways, have been waiting to make an example. Is that the right word? I think they've been waiting to catch a team being naughty with the books. And to be fair, Everton haven't been naughty with the books, have they? They've been stupid. They've been ignorant. I mean, Everton have not hidden anything. They've gone in and they've admitted to being over, but thought they could explain their way through it. And we couldn't sell Gylfi Sigurdsson because of the situation with him. And then there was COVID and whatever else. And the Premier League have just gone, no. I think it pretty clearly states what the rules are. And everybody else managed to stay underneath, losing 105 million over 3 years. whereas Everton didn't. And while we talk about this and while I remember it, when the financial year ends again, they're going to be in trouble again because the club is a poorly run club. And because of that, there's been a lot of protest over the years because the fans have been unhappy. And I fully understand that. We've been in a similar situation where we were close to various things and wanted to be in administration. So I understand all of that. But I think now this will obviously galvanise them all against them. And I think, why is there so many people upset on Everton's behalf? I think that's because of Chelsea and Manchester City. People are going, well, what about them? Well, what about them? It's not as simple as that. Because as of yet, there'll be, let's deal with Manchester City, 115 charges, and they'll now be given an opportunity to answer 115 of those charges, and then they'll decide how many of those charges they'll go forward with. So that's something, Trevor, that's coming in the future. And people go, why hasn't that been brought to court yet? Because as of yet, the Premier League is guessing a little bit and they don't have enough evidence. Whereas with Everton, it was all in black and white. So I don't have a massive problem with Everton being deducted 10 points for what they've done, as long as it's consistent. And if they find evidence for 115 charges against Manchester City, surely there is only one outcome, and that's relegation. If they are found guilty of 115 financial charges, isn't it? And the shame when it's Chelsea's turn and how much they can prove of that. I know it goes back to Abramovich, but they're also looking into a case 2008, I think, Spurs selling Jermaine Defoe to Portsmouth as well, isn't it? So they are having a look. What I have to say then, Trevor, is that
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
So the Premier League, as we know, is owned by the Premier League clubs. The 20 Premier League clubs that play in the Premier League. And they're trying to clean up the image of the Premier League. I think even some of the clubs think it's got too vulgar, with where the money's coming from. There's simply too much money. There's some clubs who've got access to simply too much money. I think if in an ideal world, we'd all want to be like Liverpool and Manchester United and Arsenal and whatever, that you generate basically your own money because you're a big club, isn't it? And then, I don't get this, Trevor. Then Thursday at the Premier League meeting, they have a vote on whether you should be able to borrow players from another club that might be owned by, guess who? Your own owners. I mean, I just sat there and I can't believe that. On one hand, we're ready. We're going to go for Everton next. We're going to go for City. We're going to have Chelsea, yeah? And then we go, but it's okay. Owners own more than one club. So what we're saying is that financial fair play. So you buy all these players for your clubs out in Saudi Arabia and you load them in through the back door. It's fucking madness, Trevor.
Nuts. It's very interesting, isn't it, that the clubs who voted to make sure that thing passed were City, who actually have a couple of clubs they might like to borrow players back from. The likes of Palace, the likes of Chelsea as well. It's very, very interesting. And I think Everton's new ownership group will obviously have interest in other clubs too. So I wonder, Jan, though, just so that we're not coming off as being holier than thou, I wonder if Liverpool had a vested interest in a club in the second level of Italian football or in the Danish, the top flight Danish league or something like that. Would we find Liverpool's name on that list as well? And is it just simply a matter of people looking after their own interests? If that is the case, it doesn't bode well, does it, for what's going to come of these vast amount of charges for City? It makes me think that, it's that kind of closed circle. As you say, virtue signal about lessening the vulgarity, virtue signal about we've got to clean this game up, and then go and allow things like that to happen where it's offering a patently unfair advantage. It's a weird one. Just on the thing you mentioned there, you were talking about City, and if even some of those charges are proven, then the patent obvious thing would be that they're relegated. Now, we've seen this happen in the past, where clubs who are in a powerful position get relegated. Might have happened in Serie A, if anyone wants to cast their minds back not too long ago. Go down, take their medicine, come straight back up, and are involved in winning the top flight again within a couple of years. Now, there's literally nothing to stop that from happening to City. So I ask you, would it not be, and again, this is not me looking for, I would take no joy as a fan in receiving anything after the fact. It might be nice that it was acknowledged, but it wouldn't give you any joy. Those days are gone. You can't enjoy a league title where you came second if it's awarded to you. But would there not be an argument that perhaps a more appropriate punishment, if, let's say, half of those charges or a third of those charges are proven, would actually be to strip some titles when those offences led, perhaps, to the titles in question? What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you mentioned Serie A there, and we'll obviously talk about Juventus and what happened to them. And I think the other sort of real profile, high-profile club is Glasgow Rangers. Sorry, we don't call them Glasgow Rangers, we call them Rangers, don't we? And what happened to them? So, yes, on one hand, it would be a sweet moment if they were found guilty to strip them of some of the titles. Would that hurt them enough? Probably not. I think the only thing that can hurt them, Shabba, is to take them down the leagues. And obviously that's going to be a big call, isn't it? But as I said before, if they'll be able to answer some of them charges, absolutely. So we're probably going to go to war with a lot less than 100 charges in the end, isn't it? But I still think that relegation and hurting them where they hurts, and that's not by stripping titles, although it would make sense to strip them of titles anyway. And not give them a big heavy fine because they can cope with that, isn't it? But sending them down through the leagues for a club. I mean, let's not talk, the two clubs we talk about, Juventus and Rangers, they're historically big clubs, and the Manchester City is still on that journey to become a big club, isn't it? And I think a lot of their new fans are probably under the age of 25. So it might even be more difficult for City to sort of recover because they might not have the same substance as a football club as Rangers and Juventus.
I think that's a great shout. And actually the key word there is down the leagues with an S, because you just pop them back to the Championship. Like I say, it's a quick turnaround. If you do, I think Rangers went down several levels that time, didn't they? And it necessitated a lot of discomfort, which I guess is what you're trying to impose, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, Rangers went to League Two of Scottish football, and believe me, that's park football. You know, it's basically clubs who train a couple of times a week and whatever, isn't it? So it just depends on what we end up in the end, isn't it? The only thing I can probably safely say, Trevor, is that it's going to be a while before we get there. There'll be a lot of to and from, and in the end, will they ever find enough evidence? Fingers crossed that if there's something wrong, that they find it and they can be punished.
Yeah, absolutely. One to watch this space. The pessimist realist in me just says money always wins, so I wouldn't be too hopeful, but it'll be interesting to watch nonetheless. We also have new ownership rumours at Manchester United. They're always good for a laugh. And I don't know how you feel about it currently, but I would love this thing to rumble on much, much longer under the Glazers, with constant upheaval and them never quite being where they were. And it comes from many years, a couple of decades, in fact, of being spoken down to and dismissed by several of my Irish peers over here who are rabid Man United supporters, and of course online too, where we were just dismissed as a non-entity. Also Rans, and the sad thing is they were probably right, but they were coming at it from such a position of superiority and haughtiness that I can't be upset when I see them struggle. Honestly, it makes me giggle. I'll be honest, that makes me a nasty man, perhaps, but I am enjoying it. I'd like to think it's going to continue, Jan. Do you think there's a chance that the new owner, Radcliffe, and his crew, I think it's Ineos, might be the type of people who are going to really steady the ship and get everything right? Or do you think there might be a chance that he's a bit of a track record of getting involved, this Radcliffe lad? There's already talk about Brailsford, the cycling guy. Maybe this could be another chapter in the clown show.
Yeah, I think there's every chance. I do think that the product that is the Premier League is probably a better product if Manchester United are doing well. Having said all of that, this is equally a big story because of what's ongoing. And I think this imminent sale of 25% of the shares, it just doesn't make any sense. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe buys 25% of Manchester United. He gives the Glazers 1 point whatever billion, yeah? But that money is theirs to do with whatever they want. He's then committed to invest in 245 million into infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, they need a new roof. You know, the fucking roof is leaking. They need to improve the training facilities and whatever else, isn't it? But the Glazers are still there. They will still own. I think they own 69% of the club, so they said sell 25%, work that out yourself. What's that, 40%? They'll still have that. They'll still be in overall control of the football club. What will he be able to do? I just don't get it. I understand what Sir Jim Ratcliffe wanted to buy the club and they didn't want to sell it. And then he's thinking, well, I want my foot inside the door. So maybe eventually I can convince him to sell it all. And so it's almost like you can get nothing of 100% or you can get 25% of something, isn't it? And they've chosen in the end to get 25% of something, isn't it? But I just don't get it. I really don't get it. So I cannot see a positive. I understand that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and David Brailsford and whatever, they'll be taking over the sporting side of things, isn't it? But is it that easy? Is it that easy if it's not your club? What are you prepared to do? I mean, what are you prepared to part with if it's not your club? I don't get it. I mean, okay, yeah, maybe the biggest thing they do need is some know-how, is how to put a structure in place that can work as a professional football club or professional sports club. So all that in itself is interesting, is it? But as I sit here, I don't look and go, other things could have happened to Manchester United that would have made us fearful. I was there in the early 90s when it happened. And what happened to them was that all of a sudden they got a group of young players who were going to be very good and it was going to be take the battle up with everybody, isn't it? This time around, they needed new owners that could take the battle up with well-run football clubs. Because there is a number of well-run football clubs. Arsenal is a well-run football club. Liverpool is a well-run football club. You've got Brighton and Brentford. Manchester City also currently is a very well-run football club. The problem we have with Manchester City is how did they get themselves to that position where they could run the football club as well as they do, you know? And by that, it was the buying of players that they might not have had the money for, isn't it? But now they've elevated themselves into a position where, as a football club, they're as well run as anyone else, isn't it? But it's the journey of how they got there that stinks a little bit, isn't it? So that's what Manchester United, they need owners that can compete with the best run football clubs in the world. They don't need owners who can throw money at it because they've been able to throw money at it with the Glazers. They've never been short of money. You know, I think they've spent 1.4 billion since Alex Ferguson retired. So the ability to spend money has never been the problem. The problem has been spending the money wise, and maybe that's where they need help. So it's one to watch out for. This current setup, I don't think is the one that's going to crack it for them again.
Yeah, I have a specific question about that current setup, and we'll come back to that to finish this off. But I was very taken by what you said there about City as well being a well-run football club, and as you say, on the surface, it does appear to be just a beast of a thing, and even down to my best pal's a City fan. He brings his son over now, and they've got all this wonderful setup where the kids can go and play outside, and setups for entertainment, and they're really laying it on well. It seems to have they've all the bells and whistles. But there is a stink still around the business side. We are constantly seeing news stories about how they've got the greatest revenue of anyone. How is that possible? How is that possible if it's not them paying themselves through their handily arranged sponsorship deals?
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin De Vries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
This episode is brought to you by Columbia Sportswear. It's snowing again, and that wind chill is killer. But you're not worried about that because you shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection. It's warmth perfected with tiny gold dots that reflect your body heat inside and protect you from the cold outside. No snow or chilly temps can stop you now. Go out anyway. Shop the Omni Heat Infinity Collection now at Columbia.com/infinity.
I don't think it's too out of order to suggest that might be happening, because otherwise, how do you justify? How could they possibly be making more money than Bayern Munich or Manchester United or even Liverpool, where the reach in terms of marketing is as big as it's ever been under Klopp now, and we see our club coming out with things like that wonderful Christmas ad that they come out with. Like, we've got that side of things down. How is it possible that they're doing that? I don't know. Don't feel you have to comment on that if you don't want to. We can just leave it sit there. If you do, you do. But also, will you circle back around to United? Because I think the most emblematic thing of the Ten Hag reign has been Jadon Sancho's career. And you talked about you don't think this current setup is going to be the one that cracks it for them. I don't know enough about it. I was just talking to Dave Davis on my previous show there an hour ago about this and saying I don't know much about it. You're probably in a position where you might hear a thing or two. Are we supposed to believe that Sancho's just a terrible lad? Is it really appropriate that a fella whose greatest defence seems to be turning up late is on the outs to that extent that, you know, Dortmund are looking for him again, and there will be no shortage of takers for a very good footballer? Or do you think it's a situation where two stubborn people got into a situation and they're both being as stubborn as each other? Like, what's your take on what's going on there?
Yeah, I think it is two stubborn people, but it was the line that he promised Manchester United he would take when he got there, and it was the line that Manchester United felt was necessary because prior to Ten Haag, it was out of control. The players did whatever they wanted to. And so it was the line. Having said all of that, Trevor, still, you sort these things out in a different way because it impacts on everything. It impacts on match days, it impacts on the training ground, it impacts on the young players, it impacts on everybody. So you sort it out in a different way. What I hear is that Ten Haag is waiting for Jadon Sancho to knock on his door and say, listen, I'm really sorry, and can you involve? But by all accounts, he's not going to do that. So I think as a football club, even taken out of Ten Hag's hands, as a football club, the football club get in between these two parties and go, listen, we have to sort this out because it is embarrassing. And the one thing, Klopp had a bit of an incident with Mamadou Sakho when he came to the club, wasn't he, where there was things but see, Klopp was getting results. He wasn't getting great results like we are today, but he was still getting results. And people could see where we were heading. And I think that's the biggest problem with Ten Hag is because you look at that team and you go, wouldn't you think you would be looking for all the help you could get because it's blatantly not working, is it? Jadon Sancho could play on the right. Well, who plays on the right? Anthony who absolutely is the worst £85 million buy in the history of football. In football, I can't see it any other way, Trevor. He's the worst player you ever paid £85 million for ever. So you'd probably want a bit of help, you know what I mean? But so I wouldn't say it's childish. It's probably not childish. But while we're talking about Ten Haag and we're talking about the current setup, I do feel that Sir Jim Bradford will come in and feel, because of what Ten Haag did at Ajax, he will feel that he's got to give this guy a chance under a proper structure with probably a proper director of football who knows what he's doing. So looking at it that way, I think the good news for us, Trevor, is that Eric is probably going to be there for a little while more. It might not be him spending the money anymore, because believe me, that 400 odd million he spent, almost every one of those signings has got his fingerprints all over it. He might not be the guy who signed the players in the future, but I think he's going to be given a little bit of time. I don't think he's as close to the door as some people might think.
I think that's fair. I think you're spot on there. It is a side benefit, though, when United and Everton are in such comparative turmoil. It's a nice distraction. And I do want to look at one other rival in terms of, well, theoretical rival at least, in terms of the size of the club, if nothing else, in Chelsea. And you've got a transfer window coming out, and we're going to have a little chat about that in a sec. But with the transfer window coming out, you know who's coming out to play. You know who's dusting off his Superman cape and getting ready to fly into action. And you also know that in situ is a manager of some stature, at least, in Pochettino. Again, I was speaking on the previous show. I think he may be elevated to a status a little bit beyond what he deserves in terms of what he's actually achieved in the game. I think that might be fair to say. But he's very well respected. It was seen as a very good appointment. And you would imagine, wouldn't you, in a normal club, that a manager of a high profile would be given at least some input and given a chance to put his stamp on things. We could be looking, though, at a situation where you're going to get further Chelsea squad destabilisation because of the maniac who goes out buying players all the time. I mean, they need, more than anything else, a settled group. The results have started just to turn around. But you could be on the brink now of more chaos because Todd's gonna Todd, you know?
It sounds bizarre, Trevor, innit? But the one thing that Chelsea need is players. I look and I'm thinking, okay, if your ambitions is to compete, you need better players than what you got already. But I agree with the Todd thing. I mean, I was at the game the other week when they threw 4-4 City. What a great game of football it was. But people are still talking about Todd Bowley wanted Cristiano Ronaldo, and he was prepared to bring him in over the head of the manager. It's fucking madness, isn't it? Fair enough that you maybe sign some 21-year-old promising player for 50, 60 million, but you're bringing trouble into the camp, 37-year-old boy, where everything needs to be about him. It's just madness, isn't it? So, yeah, last two games, they've done well, Chelsea, but it's been two games made for them. They played against two teams who come at them so they can play through them. The week before, they lost 2-0 at home against Brentford, a team that defends deep, and they can defend, and they're physically strong, and they're good on set piece, and they lost 2-0. And so I think it's too early to say that Chelsea's turned the corner, although the last two games they've been involved in, the 4-1 of Spurs and the 4-4 with City, have been marvellous games of football. But why shouldn't they be able to take part in good games of football? Because of the players they've got. But I still think there's a way. I still look at teams, I think Brighton is having a difficult season, but I still look at teams like Aston Villa and think, I'd rather have a 5 on Aston Villa to finish above Chelsea than I would have a 5 on Chelsea finish above Aston Villa.
Yeah. And again, it's to do with at least perceived stability. And like I say, I honestly think I wouldn't bank against another raft of incomings and outgoings. And what will that do? Who knows? It may be the making of them, maybe the making of Pochettino. All that's potential, but it just feels like an unstable setup to me because of the balance of power as it's
Trevor.
Yeah.
If you buy all those young players, and I'm not talking about Pochettino here, I'm talking about the owner. Now, I would suggest that the owner is restless. It's not happening, is it? He couldn't go on that pitch now and walk and do a lap of honour and get a standing ovation, could he? And I think maybe that's what he's after. Because that's all owners are like that in the end, aren't they? You want to recognize and go, what a great owner, isn't it? So you buy all these young players for a lot of money. And most of them have got potential, haven't they? But if you don't understand the potential, that means that you can't wait. And I think that's going to be Chelsea's biggest problem. There will be some of them players that are there now where you look and think that they haven't done particularly well so far. But you give them time, they'll probably do okay. But I just think that Chelsea falls into the category of, we don't have time for these. Yeah, I mean, like the Ukrainian boy, Mudryk, for what, 90 million, he certainly hasn't set the world alight. So I could see he's somebody where they go, well, let's just move him on, isn't it? Because he hasn't done it as of yet. Although I do see a massive potential. I can see him one day, bang, when it clicks, he's going to be a great player. And so I think that's going to be the biggest problem. So Todd will now be looking and he'll be listening and be on Twitter, listen to what the fans are saying and go, we need a striker, So that'll be the first thing, money. And then they're talking about how can you have a back four where your best player is a centre half who's coming up for 39 in Thiago Silva. So he goes, well, maybe we need another centre half, although they got 6 already, you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be a problem for Pochettino. And believe me, Pochettino can't control him. No chance.
If we're talking about comparative or potential instability at Chelsea, at United, at Everton, we are looking in the immediate future. We're only weeks away from it now. What is it, 22nd of November? We're only weeks away, 5-6 weeks away from another potential disruptor event with Saudi money coming into the league. And you start looking around, don't you, and you see who's disgruntled, who's not getting first team appearances, who's not doing great when they were expected to be top banana, who could be persuaded away with a couple of words in the ear mentioning big numbers. And part of me thinks that is likely to happen. And then there's another part of me, and I think I said it to you a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about poor Jordan and Bobby playing in front of 600 people. It happened again, happened twice more since we talked. A lower again, it was 700 last time we spoke, 602 or 3 last the time that Firmino and his team played against Henderson and his team. They're by no means the only big stars in those teams. So it would appear that we're very much, maybe we're just in the early stages of it. There's talk about it being a 10-year project, all the rest of it. But it could also be the beginning of a fucking disaster that's not going to go anywhere, and it ends up being a big white elephant that has a lot of money pumped into it and ends up being nothing more than a very, very elaborate PR stunt for the state. I wonder where you think it's going to go. I'm looking at lads who are actually starting to get disgruntled there. Lads who are not perhaps the big stars or instant hits that they thought they were going to be. We know the boy from who came from Celtic, Jota, and several others are in that sort of boat. But you'd imagine the league wants to hold on to them, right? They're going to want to keep as many of these top-end footballers as humanly possible. So what, do we start seeing sweetheart deals getting done where they move sideways to another club to keep them in the league so they can start building up this critical mass of highly rated footballers? At this early stage in its development, how do you feel it's going? Where do you think it's headed?
Well, it's obviously not heading in the direction that they'd hope, because surely they were hoping for better gates. Maybe they weren't having massive ambitions about how big the gates could become, isn't it? But they would probably think a country of that size would get bigger gates and with the money invested, isn't it? So that in itself will be some disappointment. Whether that will make them change their plans, I don't think so. I think certainly short term, they're going to continue to pump money in. And we're going to have this window now in January. And you rightly said clubs will be vulnerable. And even to an extent, like, we're vulnerable, aren't we, Liverpool? Because we've got 5 strikers and they can't all 5 play at the same time. So we're also vulnerable, aren't we? So I think, and I've said this before, Trev, the biggest problem they're going to have is the players out there. Because they're the ones who've got to sell the idea. They're the ones who's got to give the vibe off to other people and go. Because we all know what it's like to be part of professional sport. Yeah? You have an idea of how that works. What does professional sport smell like? What does it taste like, isn't it? And then you go out there and you go, this just doesn't seem right. It's a manufactured product. Now, there's one thing that elite sport is not, is manufactured, isn't it? It's all about emotions and feelings, and and you can't survive without that, Trevor, can you? You can't survive without that feeling that it fucking matters, It matters to the fans, it matters to the clubs. More importantly, it matters to the players, isn't it? So that's going to be the biggest challenge. How long will it take before they realise that? I don't know. How long it'll take before they think, well, we pumped enough money into this and we can't buy people's soul with it. We can buy their sort of service and their talent in it, but they're not putting everything into it.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
You don't see the same joyous scenes, do you? Bobby Firmino scores a goal for Liverpool, you know what I mean? Out there, it's just totally not the same, is it? So that's going to be the biggest challenge, is it? But it will be a disruptor again in January, absolutely, because they're going to come again. For who, I don't know, but they will come for some players.
Yeah, two of the things you said there at the end, like, one of those players, who's going to be front and center in a big story that just won't go away. I think it'll be patent bullshit, Jan, but they will start talking about Mo Salah again, because even Liverpool fans will start adding to this story and promoting this kind of concept of, well, what's the number? What is the number that wrestles him away? And because he's on such great form in terms of his bottom line and all that, you can see how that's probably going to happen. But I think you're on to the main point there. Something like that can only last as long as the emotion is genuine. And I don't know if you saw it during the week, but I had to laugh. I mean, I think you'd be like me, and far more so because you are an ex-footballer, a professional footballer, you work in the game still. I'm sure you would not critique anyone for taking a paycheck that's going to look after their family for successive generations. I find it very hard to do that. I think if I was offered that, I don't like people moralising about that, I think is my point I'm getting at here. But then you hear Stevie Gerrard, and he's saying, like, he was talking about Ronaldo, and I quote, or the GOAT, as we call him. Do we, Stevie? Is that what we call him? Are we doing that? It just, when you see that and you see the little promos that Hendo's doing, like totally natural promos, it just feels cringy as fuck, yeah. And I think it feels like it's not genuine. To go to your point, how long can something last like that? It can't, can it?
He can't, surely not. And Gerrard's going to be a problem when he returns it, because he'll have to explain that one about the goal money. It's an easy one. So, really, somebody who's played for Manchester United twice, couldn't we have found somebody else? Somebody who's never played in the country. But yeah, no, it can't last. It can't last because, but also for the players, and for a lot of the players, 1 or 2 years would be enough. Even for some of the ones who've got 3, 4, 5 year contracts, 1 or 2 seasons would be enough, wouldn't it, for them to come back with an awful lot of money. So I think that's probably going to be the most likely outcome, is that this first batch of players who arrive, they'll get to about 18 months out there, and then you'll start to hear, for the ones where there's still a route back into football that matters, isn't it? So like back into Euro or whatever. And once that starts, because they've already thrown at them the money, haven't they? So there's no more money to throw at them, is there? You know, we've given you all the fucking money you want, innit? You still don't want to be here. What's left then, Trevor, isn't it? And there's nothing left, is there? You know, and that's probably when it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I think people are underestimating what it would do to a person's pride to be pitching up in front of 600 people every week when you're used to, like we said earlier on, Anfield belting out Scouser Tommies packed to the rafters, and other stadiums we go to every week packed to the rafters, much bigger crowds again. That's going to take its toll on the soul of those players, as you say yourself. It's going to be very interesting to watch when the drip feed back starts to happen, where people go, you know, fuck this, it's not worth the money. It's time to opt out. So yeah, look, it's another one that we can watch with interest, and I'm just aware we're getting to the top of the hour, and I want to get a little bit of City chat from you. Not necessarily because we can be comparing it to any immediate form or anything like that, but if you are looking at the recent runs, I think anyone would have said, Jan, that anyone would have bitten your hand off for Liverpool to be positioned as tidily as they are now going into this game. And there is a reality where, should Liverpool win the game, obviously depending on other results and stuff like that, but to go past City at this stage of the season would be quite the thing, I think. And it might put a little bit of further impetus behind sorting out one or two of the big areas that are a potential issue in January. It's a massive game in many ways. And then here's the other side to this, Jan. Doesn't really matter, because you lose to City, you fucking lose to City. It's City. Everyone expects to lose to City. It shouldn't actually have an impact on our overall season. But if there's any little shred of ambition about winning the league, it matters in every way possible. So where do you find yourself? What side of that fence are you on? Are you still like, there's an outside hope that madness could happen and this squad could win the league, so let's just win? Or do you think like, look, it's almost like a free hit? Where are you on it?
Well, I think in terms of trying to win the league and the amount of games you need to win the leagues and the amount of points, so you're talking about 90 plus points. I think we're quite, I'm not wrong to say we're quite capable. I think we're capable of getting there, even without necessarily being better than City, by winning our games in it. But the biggest problem I have with that is our away form, Trevor. We have to improve our away form. 2 wins away from home this season, 6 all season last year. So we need to improve that. So I still think there's a chance. There's every chance that City on Saturday beat us, yeah? And then people go to blatantly better than Liverpool. But that still wouldn't rule out the fact that I still think we got a chance, because City have shown some vulnerability. They played 12 league games. They've only kept 4 clean sheets, fella. They're not as City as we expected, and so I still think there's a chance. I just think that going to City, and I don't know what they won 15, 16 consecutive Premier League games at home. You know, they're as strong as home as we are at Anfield. You know, so it's a big ask, isn't it? We have been a bit off it the 2 games after the international break against Wolverhampton and Everton, but I think even this game against Manchester City would have almost took preference for a lot of the players in the international break, isn't it? They'd have gone, but I'm already there. I'm already at the Etihad, ready for this, isn't it? So I've got a feeling we'll be ready. Listen, you need to be ready, but we've also seen that if you got it, the ability to play through their press, like Chelsea did, and they did it very well. And we got the same quality. You know, Van Dijk is back on form, playing well. Dominic with his passing abilities, and so we got a chance. We got to be absolutely spot on.
Yeah, it feels like that. It feels like it's going to have to be a perfect day for us, and maybe not so much for them. I think still the best 11 we can put out is a match for theirs. They just have that extra little bit of quality in the one area that we really needed in the shape of Rodri. And I think if we had a Rodri, I'd be happy for our squad to go up against theirs and be very confident of the league. I don't want to over-egg that, though, because I'm not one of these people who's down on Alexis McAllister in any way as a footballer. I think it's unfortunate he has to do the job that he's doing, and I think it doesn't suit him. And I think it's part of a bigger issue, including the whole Trent ongoing experiment, which needs to be binned and play the fella in midfield or play the fella at right back, because it's a liability at the moment. And I don't think we're a side that can afford, if we have ambitions, to have liabilities. And we have a couple of them now. We have a man doing a job who's struggling manfully to do that job, but maybe isn't suited to it. And we've another lad who doesn't seem to know where he wants to be at any given point, and is bang out of form in terms of his defensive work. And then we have the whole left-sided defender situation, which is an ongoing issue, and it even will be an ongoing issue when Andy Robertson comes back. So we have enough things to be dealing with, Jan, without creating extra issues for ourselves. And that Trent thing always seems like one of those to me. If you were to look at I think it's a fairly solid squad in terms of injury, and touching wood as I speak here. But with all the travel, all the rest of it, do you think that's going to have an impact, or do you fully expect Klopp to go as strong as possible? I do. And for me, that's Diaz, Nunes, Salah. That's Jones with the two new boys. And I think I'd like to see Ibu Konate, but I don't know where he is in terms of his recovery, alongside Virgil, and obviously the two full-backs then look after themselves. And you hope they do their defending. Where do you see us going? How do you see Klopp lining up? Am I missing a trick there? Is there a better choice of personnel given what City bring to the game?
No, not really. I mean, obviously Konate pulled out of the French games. I assumed that was to give him more time to recover, to make sure he was ready for this one. So I expect him to play. Joe Gomez is a bit of a problem, because we didn't expect that before the last game against Brentford. All of a sudden he was out of action with an injury. So it probably looks like Tsimikas might have to play that left back again. He certainly did better against Brentford than what he had done in the games before. And when we talk about all this, and we talk about how relatively well we've done in midfield, I still think it's our biggest worry, is that I don't look at a midfield three that I know that will give Klopp what he wants in every single game. I still think we were at our best, Trevor, when our midfield worked with the three of them, Fabinho, Henderson and Wijnaldum. And that was the strength of us, the way that they protected the back four, the way that they supported the front three with winning second balls and all that. So I still think that I look at our midfield and I go, we got some really good midfield players, but I'm still looking at what is our strongest midfield three. Do we have a midfield three now that, even if they don't play to the absolute best, that can hold their own at the Etihad? Maybe not. So that's a slight worry for me. And I think I would be amazed if Klopp doesn't look at that and thinking, we don't need another four midfield players. I think we need one more midfield player to just put everybody back in their positions and go, this is how we're going to do this. And so I'm always a little bit worried. I was never worried about that midfield I mentioned before, because I knew home or away against anyone, they would never let you down. This midfield, as well as they've relatively done, I still think they can become a bit of a problem. Especially against Manchester City. I mean, you mentioned Rodri before, isn't it? But fucking Bernardo Silva, he's playing as well as he's ever played, and Julian Alvarez, is more like a number 10, isn't it? They've got some really good players. So, but that's the challenge, isn't it, Trevor? You play against the best. It's going to be tough, isn't it? I just hope that we can cope. And the one thing I hope is that should we lose, we look back at the game and go, do you know what? It was a great game of football. We gave everything we had. We maybe just lacked a little bit, yeah. Instead of us looking back and then going, he made a mistake, or that was the reason that we lost this. And that's just, we just want to. These two teams, to be fair, are good enough, and we deserve to give us a great game of football, isn't it? The only thing that slightly thrown a spanner in the works is the 12:30 kickoff, isn't it? Which doesn't lend itself to great spectacle, isn't it? But there's been some belting games about these two, hasn't it, Trevor, over the last 7 or 8 years. I mean, if we get another one of them, and I think we might. I think we're going to get goals.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing how many you think they're going to be and how many on each side. And just to echo what you're saying there, that midfield, yeah, of course, that the certainty that you had with them was very much the certainty that we used to feel when it came to calling results, which we're going to do in a second. But in that team as well, you had a very rigid role for Trent where he was basically reinventing what a right back does and happened to be fucking world class at it, if you don't mind me saying so. So why are we reinventing the wheel? I don't understand it. We do have this massive game to look forward to. It's the kind of reason why you support your team and why you get into football in the first place. Yeah, it's a pain in the arse. It's on at 12:30 on the Saturday, but if you can't enjoy this, you know, this game ain't for you. With that in mind, you've set it up nicely. We understand it's going to be a massive challenge. How are you feeling in terms of us being up to it in your predicted result? How do you see it going?
I feel, to be fair, I feel okay, Trevor. As I said before, they've had 4 clean sheets in the 12 Premier League games. They are vulnerable, you know, and if Chelsea could do what they did, we have similar quality. You know, the ability to go from one end to the other in the blink of an eye, and then you create the chances. You've got the quality. You know, we've got more quality attacking wise than what Chelsea have. So I can easily see one of those games, Trevor. You know, end to end, and we're going to cost them a lot. They will dominate the ball. That's how they play. That's how they've chosen to play. We're not that concerned about dominating the ball when we play against the best. We're more concerned about how effective we are. And I've said before, I think we'll get our chances. They'll have enough on their plate to deal with us. I have no doubt about that.
So, if you had to call it, result-wise?
I think a draw is a great result, Trevor. I think it's a great result because also, you know, we've done reasonably well against them at home over the years. I just can't decide whether it's 2-2 or 3-3. But I don't know. That's not necessarily on the back of them drawing 4 with Newcastle. With Chelsea. It's on the back of what I've seen between these two over the years. And I've been fortunate enough to, I think I've attended almost every one of them. And even when I've gone to Etihad, I'm thinking, fucking hell, I'm not looking forward to this. But in every game, we caused them so many problems. You know, in every single game we played against them, we caused them so many problems. And I think it'll be exactly the same on Saturday. And as I said before, we're effective enough. They will not for 1 minute enjoy playing against half front three, that's for sure. We've got certainly 2 of the front 3 who love running in behind, stretching the pitch, that physically strong. And then you've got Mo Salah, who might not be playing as well as he's ever played, but fucking everything he touches is either an assist or a goal, isn't it? So that's being effective I was talking about before. And so I can't make my mind up to have a 2-2 or 3-3, but I just got a feeling that, it's all there, isn't it? All the ingredients are there, Trevor. You know, surely we can't fuck this one up.
Famous last words, buddy. I think most people would bite your hand off for that, and our record there is fucking wretched. It's years since we won there, and I think those kind of stats are there to be demolished, and those kind of runs are there to be ended, and that's what Klopp has brought to Liverpool since he came. All those old horrible stats went out the window one by one, and maybe the last one we need to fix is our results at the Etihad. I think we'd all take a high scoring draw. I still hold out some sort of weird hope for a win. I don't know where I'm getting it from, but I have a premonition of a Darwin madness. Let's see what happens. We have been all over the houses there, lots and lots to talk about. Lots and lots talked about, and we really appreciate you for that. So thanks again, Jan.
No problem, Trevor. I mean, I know we've lost 4-1 there last year, and we lost 4-0 at the other, and we lost 5-0, whatever. But I still think in every game we've been there, we've had opportunities, and it'll be the same on Sunday. So yeah, it's great to be back, Trevor. Let's go. I mean, I know we still got 2 European games to go before the group stage of that completes in it, but this is a really important time in the Premier League, isn't it? You know, going all the way now to early March probably before we'll be in European action again. That really matters, isn't it? So full focus on the Premier League. Let's get some points on the board.
We'll be here with you for that, listeners, myself and Jan, through all of those games. We'll be back next week to talk about how City went. Look forward to the next game or 2 that's coming up. So do stick with us. And as ever, thanks for your attention. We'll see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.